Hitter, hacker, grifter, thief. New guy. Leverage is back. Before I get into the actual subject of this review, I must first bring you back to a time in 2008. The economy was in the toilet. People were struggling to survive. The government was bailing out banks and businesses instead of people. And one okay-ish writer came up with an idea. What if there was someone, literally anyone, who could help? Someone who could save people's houses and dispense justice, instead of just sitting around going, "We know this is hard for you." And so, Dean Devlin wrote a pilot. In it, a former insurance investigator teams up with a gaggle of crooks to take down rich and powerful assholes who break the law and hurt innocent people. It was fun, a little dramatic, and deeply cathartic. For 5 seasons, we got to enjoy Nate, Sophie, Hardison, Elliot, and Parker ruining rich scumbags, both professionally and emotionally, and then gloating from a passing car or window washer lift. And then the show ended with its 5th season. The series finale was touching, heartfelt, and a good send-off for the characters we had grown to love. The crew parted ways for the last time. Or did they? Well, obviously, you know they didn't, because you're watching a review about Leverage Redemption. Leverage Redemption brings almost all the characters back into the spotlight, except for Nate. But honestly, Nate was the worst character in the original series, and his arc ended after he started drinking in season 3. In this revival, Sophie Devereaux, played by the still lovely Gina Bellman, takes over from Nate as mastermind. It's well suited to this character, who previously tried her hand at running the cons, and spent the last season of the show running an entire theater. Her found family of criminals and cons returns to their old roles as well. Hacker Alec Hardison is only around for a couple of episodes over the season, because his actor Aldous Hodge was busy being Hawkman. But his brief moments on screen are still amazing, and his character is mentioned enough throughout the show that he still feels like a presence in their lives. But the rest of the crew is back for the full series. Beth Ricegrass Parker is still excitable, calculating, and at the top of her thieving game.
So heavy. Yes!
However, this is a Parker who has grown far beyond the reclusive, borderline sociopath of the show's early seasons. She's now able to make connections and be a warmer person without losing that distinctive Parker edge.
And don't worry, I haven't stabbed anybody in a really long time, like a whole month.
Parker, a month's not very long.
It is when you're the one not doing the stabbing.
Christian Kane's portrayal of Elliot is just as physical as his younger days. He's mellowed out, but is still filled with brooding trauma. A large part of the original series' appeal was his bickering friendship with Hardison. Which begs the question, since Hodge is absent for 90% of Redemption's run, will Elliot still become so delightfully annoyed? The answer is yes. But his annoyance and exasperation is now often directed at the group as a whole. This works really well as it gives Parker, Sophie, and new characters Brianna and Harry a chance to play the foil. And there's new characters. Noah Wiley joins the cast as Harry Wilson, effectively replacing Nate. Don't worry though, because he's not here to take control of the group. He's the handy perspective character for new viewers. A good way to explain what old fans already know. He's also there to really drive home the theme of the series, redemption. Once a cutthroat, high-powered lawyer, he helped some very bad people escape the consequences of their actions. In short, he's the kind of guy that would have been a target of Leverage in the past. Thankfully, he has an attack of conscience just before crossing paths with the team. There's a moment in the first episode that really drives home his anger and need to balance his own scales.
If I can't give them anything and I can't be forgiven, I need to take something!
There's also Brianna, played by relative newcomer Elise Shannon. She is Hardison's younger foster sister. The pair have been raised together by the always unseen Nana, Brianna shows up ready to slide into the traditional hacker role for the team, but she brings a new skill in drone technology. She's a self-dubbed maker, a title that never quite sticks, even though the show really wants it to. After all, she still spends a lot of time behind a computer. That's fine though, because the series gives her a number of episodes to shine. From heroic moments to emotional speeches, she is given a lot of opportunity to flex her acting chops, and I can see an excellent career in her future. She also brings that important element of youth and energy to the crew. Okay, we are entering spoiler waters, so skip to this time code for a safe port. Why am I so into sailing metaphors lately? The series starts out with the immediate reveal that Nate Ford is fucking dead. Like in the ground, engraved tombstone dead. Between seasons, Sophie and the alcoholic former insurance investigator lived a nice suburban life until the bottle of scotch a day habit caught up with Nate's heart. In real life, actor Timothy Hutton was the subject of some sexual assault allegations. A subject we're not really going in depth on here because this is a fun review. But if you want to, feel free to do further research on your own. Honestly though, given how quickly he was dumped and his character killed, it makes you wonder how much the series producers liked working with him in the first place. They likely aren't fond of him at the moment, since he sued the producers of Redemption for dropping him from the show. Again, his character is the weakest, so I'm not too broken up about his departure, but it's important to get that out of the way early. So Nate is dead, and the show begins on the 1-year anniversary of his bum ticker blowing a fuse. The old crew pays their respects to Nate before attempting to cheer Sophie up. Sophie, who is obviously bereft at the death of her husband, pushes back against their attempts, until they hit on an excellent idea.
We should steal something.
There's no better way to cheer up an old art thief than with a good old-fashioned art heist. During their casing, however, they run into lawyer Harry Wilson, who is representing a man who made his fortune from the opioid epidemic. And while, yes, Harry is working for the bad guy, he's also preparing to steal from him. The crew bail him out of his half-baked robbery, and we quickly learn his whole deal. So begins his new career on the Leverage team as the inside man for their douche-tastic targets. In the opening episode and throughout the series, we also learn more about what our heroes have been up to since they were cruelly cancelled in the 5th season. The final episode of the original run hinted at a larger Leverage International, and since then, it looks like franchises are booming. There are several allusions to multiple teams, with even a sly reference to the South Korean adaptation. Plus, we even get a surprise return guest in the form of a taco and cocaine-loving disgraced former broker, Hurley. He's doing better than ever and working for Leverage International. Hurley's inclusion was such a surprise, it induced multiple screams from me and my viewing partners. And what about our core team? Well, Parker and Hardison have continued the relationship that developed through the original run. Parker has also evolved. She talks openly about attending therapy, even though it's a child therapist.
She liked the puppets.
She also has friends and former clients, and a far richer personal life that is hinted at several times. Yes, this Parker is far from the days of living in an abandoned warehouse under a large, ominous light. She still uses cue cards for social interactions, though. Elliot gets more attention this season as well. He has a budding romantic relationship with an ass-kicking federal marshal, though there is drama from the questionable legality of his profession. He also gets to repeat that scene from the 5th season where he teases meeting his yet uncast father. His bloody military background is also expanded upon with a sweaty interrogation scene. Like the seasons of old, the series is highly episodic, but there are a few overarching themes and plots. One is the mysterious private security firm, RIZ. They are headed by an equally mysterious woman who is quite good at showing up, acting smug, and then getting wrecked by the crew. Overall, they are one of the weakest elements of the season. They float in and out of the series a handful of times, and end up a fairly underwhelming threat. But Leverage has always been hit or miss on its villains. This season is no different. There are some real standouts. Spike himself, James Marsters, plays a sleazy human trafficker with a weakness for gambling. The always delightful Nick Tarabay also brings his usual oozing charisma to a deposed despot who kidnaps the wrong Nate. As I mentioned earlier, the show also does not pull its punches with who it's villainizing. There are bad guys who are a thinly veiled Elon Musk, Martin Shkreli, and even a clear allegory to Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump. Leverage Redemption is unapologetically anti-capitalist and progressive, and isn't afraid to say it. But it's possible to be too on the nose, Leverage writers.
On advice of my counsel, I evoke my Fifth Amendment rights.
On the advice of counsel, I invoke my Fifth Amendment privilege.
The strength in the series is clearly in its characters and its episodic storytelling. Its biggest flaw, however, is visual effects. The green screening is absolutely atrocious. There are laughable moments involving Parker and an air quotes Italian church. Digital explosions also abound, often looking like drag and drop After Effects. Of course, all of these have been a problem for Leverage in the past. Oh, you don't believe me? Just take a look at this car crash. There are a few bad CGI moments in Redemption that really stand out, because they could have been done cheaply with props. One of the most egregious examples is this obvious CGI tree branch that Parker grabs a hold of. What, you couldn't get a PA to hold a tree branch just off screen? Like you couldn't find one on the day? Luckily for us, the bad green screen and questionable CGI choices are offset by some truly impressive stunt work. One episode sees Parker and Elliot trapped in an island resort during a massive hurricane. In a jaw-dropping sequence, Parker, or Parker's stunt woman, climb the resort's bell tower in an absolute shitstorm. It's all in camera, and the poor stunt performer is being pelted with water and wind. And the new writers clearly have a deep love for the source material. They even managed to improve on the original's flaws. The tacky gay panic jokes are replaced with stories involving gay and lesbian characters. And the revival has a more inclusive outlook when it comes to Leverage's chosen clients. Overall, while there are some flaws, they are few and far between. The cast are all back in full form, bringing the same energy to the characters as we knew them, but with new added growth. The callbacks to the original series are also heartfelt and plentiful. There are specific moments of continuity that show a real love and respect for the show's past. The terrible green screen and occasional lackluster villain are pretty minor when stacked up against the things that this revival does right. I feel pretty confident when I say this. If you are a fan of the original run, then you will get a lot out of this revival. But even if you have never seen Leverage before, you can get something out of the episodic adventures that Leverage Redemption has to offer. Since the first 3 episodes of the second season have just been released on Freevee, it's a good time to grab a few snacks, sit down on your coziest couch, and take a chance on this excellent reboot. Or maybe even catch a few episodes of the original. Leverage Redemption gets a 4 out of 5. Alright everyone, thank you so much for watching our review of Leverage Redemption Season 1. If you want to support the channel, we have a Ko-Fi and Patreon listed below. But just don't forget to like and subscribe if you're not, and thank you so much for watching. Remember, stay safe and be who you are.